On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative. The motion is not agreed to.
Democrats are set to take control of the U.S. Senate, House, and the White House.
This will go down as one of the most progressive administrations in American history.
God willing, everything is on the table.
You now can pass things without a filibuster threat. That's right.
Oh, you'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Down it goes, the top priority.
You love to see it.
You'll love to see it. Welcome to the Ruthless Variety Program. I'm Josh Holmes. I'm here with Comfortably Smug and Michael Duncan. A big win for the home team.
Yes, S1, HR1, the so-called Democratic Voting Rights Bill, which is in fact
that's anything
but goes down in defeat in the Senate. But I got to say, the one thing I really enjoy about it is having to see Kamala Harris up there with the job of reading out the failure.
Oh,
you know.
I mean, there is honestly so much to enjoy about this. Like, you had that brainworm ad, which was put out about how, like, all democracy, and I guess their kid, like, I guess Manchin kills their kid in the future or something like that, is on the line if this doesn't pass. And then you've got, like, the polls come out, and it's the vast majority of Americans support, like, voter ID.
Yep.
All these things. And they read the tea leaves. Like, you saw Stacey Abrams flip-flop on it. You saw Warnock flip-flop on it. They know what's happening. They're not trying to get caught with this crazy bill.
No, they're not. But also, speaking of that bizarre ad that we covered in the previous program, didn't we put something up on YouTube?
So, so we have a YouTube channel
See,
now.
there it is.
So for all the listeners of the Variety Program, you know, some people have asked for, like, basically an archive of all these episodes on YouTube, you know, so they can just keep, you know, an open tab in their browser while they're at work or whatever. We have all that now on the YouTube channel, and we also have put up a snippet from Tuesday's Variety Program, where we break down that ad. So that video is on our YouTube channel. We'll put a link to it here in the show notes. It'll also be on the website in the navigation. Just click on that little YouTube icon and you'll see it. One thing I would ask, please subscribe to the channel so we can get, like, an actual vanity URL for the thing. So it isn't, you know, youtube.com/user/xrqtpv3.
It's humiliating.
It's humiliating. It really is. And I mean, like, look, we've never really done YouTube before, but maybe in the future, you know, we'll have some YouTube content.
Well, that's the thing that I was going to add. We've got two important developments. One, I actually watched the thing that you put together that we were talking about with the ad.
Yeah.
And it's got, like, a Mystery Science Theater quality to it.
Totally.
It's hilarious.
It's good. I mean, it's tough to do in an audio format real justice to the brainworms of that ad.
It's really good. But then the second part is, you have my word that if we get to, like, multiple thousands of subscribers on this thing, we're going to figure out how to introduce video to this.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, baby steps.
It's going to be interesting. Smug, we're going to have to talk Smug into some kind. I don't know if he's going to go Wizard of Oz on it or what's going to.
I got some ideas.
He has ideas. It'll be the tie and the shirt over his face or something. Either way, I think the video is going to be on the horizon.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, go to the website or you'll see the link here in the show notes. Go to the YouTube and check out that snippet from Tuesday's episode. It's pretty funny, I think.
So before we move on, I know our intro here was all S1, HR1, Dems top priority. Republicans killed it. Great work. Did you guys get the feeling it's so amazing to watch the press cover this thing because it's like there was some cliffhanger that just was solved.
Yeah.
Right? There's this major decision that, oh my gosh, voting rights has now gone down in the United States Senate, which is, like, beyond insane.
Right.
Beyond insane. But also as if there was ever any doubt about the outcome of this piece of shit legislation.
Yeah.
You know, like, they introduced this same thing 2 years ago and variations of it for the last 30 years. Like, nobody wants this piece of garbage. Nobody's ever wanted. And then they have a 50-50 Senate, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, yeah, Republicans are going to go for this mess.
And what really gets me is the way that the media covers this. They're like, this is a voting rights bill. No, it's not. This is a federalizing elections bill. Talk about what's actually in it. What's actually in it is things like the public, taxpayers, paying for elections.
Paying for ads in elections.
That's the thing. It's like your tax money is now going to be running ads. Your tax money is now going to pay for the robocalls that hit your phone.
Right.
Well, thanks to Cocaine Mitch and the crew in the Senate, we don't have to worry about that. But my Lord, if you watched a second of news, which I try not to, you would be under an entirely different impression about what went down this week than what actually happened.
Yeah, I think a lot of the libs were sort of holding out hope that, basically by getting the entire corporate media establishment on their side with this false framing of voting rights, they could somehow create the outside PR pressure to, push this over the finish line. But it was never close at all.
Never close. Well, what I wanted to just touch on quickly, Duncan, how's the merch?
The merch is great. Having a rep over there at Teespring is fantastic. Thank you for that.
I got my T-shirts in yesterday, and they look awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, we've seen a lot of great pictures from people. Keep posting them. Keep tagging us. We love to see it.
Oh, I was gonna say, yes, keep doing that. We also just kind of we've had an Instagram.
Yeah.
We're adding to it. We're now focused on it. Let's just put it that
we're
way.
gonna be posting a lot of content on there. This isn't our day job, so we're trying to produce all of this content.
Folks, this is Duncan's full-time job. If you want him to do anything, tweet at him.
Cyberbully me.
Tweet at him. But we have intern Kelly who's helping out.
She's fantastic.
She's wonderful.
And one little flag on the merch is we've got this new hat, this Ruthless Variety Program hat, which is sort of an homage to, the Zoomers aren't going to know this, but back in the 90s, this hat brand called The Game had these fantastic college hats.
Oh, they're the best.
That would have, the school's mascot, and the bottom would say the name. And that's basically what this is an homage to that sort of style of hat. It's just a white snapback, classic, perfect for the beach, a lot of fun.
I love it. And I'm really looking forward to mine arriving. I did get my tank. So,
ready for the summer.
That. I'm ready. One other piece of housekeeping, and it's the reviews. Thank you for all of the reviews that we're getting. Reading these things, it's really gratifying. I'm so thankful for all the people who are listening to this. But I think we want to start incorporating some of these, don't we, Duncan?
Yeah. The reviews are fantastic. We absolutely love to see it. To incentivize people, these algorithms at all these platforms are obviously all based on engagements and things like that. And so, the more people that leave 5-star reviews, the better it is for the old variety program. So if you leave a 5-star review and a question, we will answer it here on the pod.
I love it.
Now that's a good hook.
That's a little carrot.
I love it. Okay, so we'll get to that.
How about this? Speaking of carrots, Netflix has introduced a dating show for furries, and I can't make this up. I think Beto signed, I heard that Obama's got a Netflix contract, right? So I'm guessing Beto signed a Netflix contract, and now they have a dating show for furries.
It's the sickest thing I've seen.
Absolute
today.
degeneracy.
Wait, I think he does have a Netflix contract.
Does he?
Yeah.
Whoa. This is his first, my guess, this is his first program.
You think he's going to get an EP credit in this?
Absolutely.
Furries. No, okay, so what he's talking about is Netflix's new dating show, Sexy Beasts.
Good God.
Which,
Absolute degeneracy.
It's a new dating show where real-life singles sport elaborate makeup and prosthetics to put a true blind date chemistry to the test. I guess we're just all out of ideas.
It's disgusting.
Because if you click on this thing, I encourage you, go to the Twitter, go to the Netflix, whatever. You got to watch the preview for this thing. It's positively ridiculous.
It's so weird.
Well, it isn't like they're just wearing a mask or something. I saw some of these pictures. There was someone with a dolphin face, someone with a full-on beaver.
It's very, very elaborate.
Whoa. A full-on what?
A beaver. The face of a beaver.
Okay.
It's unbelievable. And here's the thing is, how does this get okayed? At what point are they like, what would be a great idea for a game show? Dress them up as animals.
It's just the weirdest.
Nice beaver.
Well, if you could be on any game show, which game show are you on?
I don't know. I'm still fighting through.
I'm trying to find a segue.
I'm still fighting
because there are children listening to this program.
Through the Duncan
Any
beaver face.
game show.
Any game show.
Oh gosh, pass.
Oh,
Pass?
You can't pass me. I'm like literally can't catch my breath.
Yeah, I would love to do one of those survival shows.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that would be
Naked and Afraid.
Yeah, Naked and Afraid or Alone. Alone's pretty badass. I would love to do that.
That's intense. I was gonna say like Jeopardy. I think I'd crush it on Jeopardy.
Oh, Jeopardy's fantastic.
I gotta tell you, Family Feud is where it's at.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So the one thing I would say about Jeopardy is when I play at home with my wife, she does that super annoying thing where I have the question, but I just say what the answer is rather than forming it in a question. And I mean, like
She corrects you.
She corrects me.
Good for her.
It's like, no, you didn't actually get that point because you didn't ask it in a question. Like, come on.
That's right.
It's just ridiculous.
Katie, if you're listening, and we know you're not, we can understand your frustration.
How about you? What's yours? Oh, Family Feud?
Yeah, I think it's Family Feud. If for no other reason, you got a good camaraderie on that show. I've always got I like the interplay with the family, and you feel like, it's not like the glaring lights all on you. You can kind of work your family around it. Seems like a good...
You know who would crush it? The, Ruthless crew.
Yeah,
on Family
Feud.
We would destroy any team out there.
I feel like we would dominate.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be close.
Dominate. All right, so... Before we get into the serious business here, and we have serious business, believe it or not, border and such. I want to bring in Hollywood Henn because Hollywood Henn has an important update. We've been waiting with bated breath for now 13 years to hear from Miss Britney Spears, and it appears as though that is happening.
Yes, we are actually mere minutes away from hearing from Britney Spears. She is going to be, for the first time, speaking out about her conservatorship, and she's going to be addressing the court via Zoom. And what they're expecting is that she's going to talk about wanting to remove her father from her conservatorship permanently. Right. He's already removed from her person, but she wants him removed from managing her funds as well, her money as well. But the big question mark that, we're waiting on is to see if she stops just there with her dad or if she asks to have the whole thing, conservatorship, be ended altogether. And it's interesting because we've never known her thoughts on this. Everybody's just guessed based on hints that she leaves on Instagrams and things that she likes and, on social media. So everybody's waiting on bated breath to see what she says.
And she's actually going to be doing the speaking.
She's going to be
not
doing
like
the
an
speaking.
Attorney.
Yep. But so one hint was that her boyfriend was wearing a Free Britney t-shirt and posted on social media. So everyone's kind of wondering. They're like, oh, is that a hint that she's going to actually ask for the conservatorship to end? And the New York Times put out a piece earlier this week saying that through her lawyer, she's been trying to end this for several years and has been denied. And so now she's finally going to be addressing the court.
I mean, honestly, it's completely insane. Like, the amount of money that her conservatorship, has essentially siphoned from her is nuts. Like, I can't remember what her net worth was, but it's like
$60 million now.
It's a fraction of like what Beyonce or Taylor Swift, and Britney's been at it for like much longer. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, someone's not been doing their job. If she, has done all these tours and residencies and the album sales, and that's all she has to show for it.
And some of the things she said, or that came to light in the New York Times, in some of these court filings, like she wasn't allowed to repaint her kitchen cabinets.
What?
Because her dad didn't think that was a good use of her money. She had to perform with 104-degree fever, because, her handlers forced her to. I mean, truly, she has been her rights have been so violated for the past 13 years. Basically, they've been like, you're fine to go perform and do exactly what we want, but how dare you ever do something that you want? And she is a grown woman.
Scary.
It is scary because you know what? If this can happen to Britney Spears,
Yeah.
who else can it happen to? I think the courts have, unless there is something that we really don't know about the situation from the vantage point that we have now, the courts have really done a horrible job protecting. She's been unprotected her whole life.
They gotta elevate this to the federal, get them Trump judges on it.
Yeah, that's right.
That would do the job.
Well, so the judge has switched. So there was another judge prior to this who kept saying, no, keep everything in place. And this newer judge seems to be the first person who seems to be a little bit maybe open to having things change. So listen,
So there's no decision today.
We don't know what I don't think so. No one officially knows what she's asking. We're assuming she's going to ask for her father to be taken off and possibly ask for the thing to be terminated, but I don't think we're going to it's not going to be a resolution today. But she could be my woman victory this summer. What if she wins? What if she wins and then Simone Biles and the gymnastics team wins? Those are going to be my women victory.
Yeah,
I count Britney as a DGAF though, so that's a DGAF win.
Another win for the dudes.
I feel like there's
Total
no.
DGAF
Dudes
win.
rock.
No.
Like
Dudes
you mentioned her
rock Britney.
boyfriend, the one with the free Britney shirt. What does he do?
He's a trainer.
Yeah, that's
Dudes rock.
He wins.
He was in her.
What's her net worth?
He was in.
Good
He
work,
was in
trainer.
her. He was in her music video
Yeah,
for
wait,
Sleepover,
like-
and that's how they met.
Like, no question, this guy's got the free Britney
Oh,
shirt,
yeah.
right? Because, like, he's the biggest
course.
beneficiary of
Can you
this
imagine?
situation.
And he's been outspoken against her father.
I'd
as
be
well.
like,
Well,
listen,
of
Britney,
course.
Yeah.
you got to manage your own money. You have to take care of it. You're in control here. Why are you letting someone else mess with your money? You know, the guy is smart. Honestly, maybe he's the one behind the free Britney thing.
He might be.
You
No,
know?
I'm not letting you take anything away from Britney on this. This is hers and hers alone. He has nothing
Dude
to do
is
with
winning.
anything.
I hope they free her. He's gonna cash in so hard.
I need to learn
Allegedly.
this man's name.
Allegedly.
Shout out to that
It's
trainer.
Sam. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Go Sam.
You know what, Sam? Good
Sam,
work.
the soon-to-be millionaire.
Playing
Sam.
the long game.
I cannot believe.
know what,
I
though?
can't believe Smug turned this around.
There's no. I'm refusing to allow that
Dudes
to happen.
rock.
But also, everybody who's been around her has had to be approved, so he thinks it could be good for him. But let's say she gets free and then she can date whoever she wants. Who's to say he sticks around?
Sam knows what he's doing.
Wait. She her boyfriends have to be
Everything
approved by
has
the
to be approved.
conservatorship?
Everybody who enters her circle has to be approved.
But wait, so her dad
Yes.
ostensibly is
Yes.
approving who Britney Spears is dating.
Yes, or has in the past. That switched in 2019 when this other girl took
When
control
this
of her
guy
person.
got in.
Bingo.
Well, this guy
And here's the
Smug's
thing
onto
is
something
like
here.
she's been controlled by other people her whole life.
Her whole
so
life, it's so sad.
Sam knows. Sam's like, all right, now I got to be in control. I need to call the shots on those millions.
No.
This actually reminds me.
He's like, free Britney, babe.
the more.
This is a horrible take.
It
Britney has
is.
clawed her
Best
way to
take.
get to this point,
Sam the man.
and she is the win. She is the victor here.
This actually reminds me a lot of what happened to Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys.
What? I didn't know about this.
Yeah, well, he had a lot of mental problems and started seeing the psychiatrist who eventually took over all of his affairs and all of his finances, and if a girlfriend wanted to come in, take him out on a date or so, everything had to be approved by his psychiatrist for years. He stayed in the house for years. He really had a lot of mental issues, but eventually they figured out he was sort of being over medicated to be in this state of,
That's terrible. The man
Yeah.
made pet sounds.
Yeah.
You can't do that to him.
Absolute
Can't
genius.
Can't do it. He needs a Sam.
People also have come out and talked about Britney being over medicated when she was the host of the X Factor, guest host of that.
Well,
show.
I mean,
That's
what's the first clue? Did you see her on that show?
Yeah,
My God.
I know. And so
Wait, what was the X Factor?
She was like a guest host. It was kind of like a voice
talent,
type thing.
like another talent show.
Look, I'd have to be medicated to watch that shit too. It's terrible. I hate that sort of television.
And you're gonna keep us updated on
yeah.
this?
So as things break, I'll keep you guys updated.
I love it.
Nice.
Hollywood Henn, ladies and gentlemen.
Actually, hold on there a minute. We have late breaking news. Britney has spoken.
Yes, Britney has spoken, everyone, and Let me tell you, her testimony was heartbreaking. The takeaway, she says, I want to end the conservatorship without being evaluated. I want a petition to end the conservatorship. Britney Spears wants out.
Wow.
And typically how you have to end something like this is you petition to end the conservatorship, and then you have to be evaluated by doctors in order to prove that you can take care of yourself. Then the judge has to approve it, and it can end.
But she's just over it.
But she's just over it. She doesn't want any evaluation. She just
we
wants
expected.
out.
I mean, we expected her to say she wanted out, but obviously this is a little more aggressive. She's done with it.
She is done. And some of the things that she said were
what did she say was going on?
so sad. She said she talked about basically how she was on lithium for several years.
That's heavy stuff.
That's
and
intense.
People were giving her lithium. That's what she was medicated on for 5 years, and it was like she was drunk. She
5
said,
years on lithium. Lithium is a very it's heavy duty.
And having to perform.
And she said, my it's my wish and dream for all of this to end. She really comes out hard against her family. She said, I would honestly like to be able to sue my family. My attorney said I can't let the public know anything about what has been done to me, but it's not fair that they're telling lies about me openly, even my family.
And this is a court-appointed lawyer?
A court-appointed lawyer. That's what she said. She said, I haven't even had the opportunity to handpick the lawyer myself. Everybody's been taking advantage of me. She hasn't been able to see friends that she's made. She feels ganged up on, bullied. It just seems like every worst nightmare that we thought was happening was actually happening.
She's in prison.
She's in prison.
She's a slave.
Yes.
They basically just keep her drugged up, and they're like, all right, perform, make money.
She said that in one rehearsal, she didn't do a move right or choreo. She did something or didn't do something. And her manager called her therapist or person to say, Britney needs a session because she's not performing well in rehearsal.
So everyone in her life is a snitch at this point.
And so she said Jody, who is in control of her person at this moment, she said, she knocked her dad out of the position. This Jody girl's been in control. And she said, Jody's gotten heavy-handed too. I just want my life back. They if she didn't do certain things that they said that she wasn't going to get paid and she wouldn't be able to go on Maui on vacation. I mean,
it's a process that would drive a sane person insane.
Correct.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
Everyone around you, is against you.
Right.
Snitching on you, wants your money, and you're by law, they get to call all the shots.
Yes.
You can't do anything about it.
She said she didn't know she was able to petition the conservatorship before.
Of course they wouldn't let her know.
Jeez.
The gravy train.
I mean, this is just horribly, horribly sad. And clearly her court-appointed lawyer, I don't know what's going on there, but the judge at the end asked if, he wanted to file an official petition. So Britney stopped speaking. And then the judge is like, okay, do you want to file a petition to end this?
But she literally just said she wanted out.
And she wanted out. And he said, if Britney wants to file one, he would do that, but she hadn't asked as of yet.
She's literally asking right now.
It's like, she just did, dude. So maybe you should go ahead and file that sucker.
You know what? It's such a incredible example, just a microcosm of the problem with this whole conservatorship in the first place. Is she has no agency. She's not treated as a human being. Yeah. She literally just stood there and said, hey, I want out. And then the judge just basically ignores her and speaks to the lawyer. And part of this is obviously the legal system. And that's the way it works. I get it. But it's such a perfect example that illustrates how messed up this process is for a person who has no rights right now.
That's insane.
It's just total abuse, it seems, from an outside perspective.
So what happens from here?
So what happens from here, obviously, we're giving this to you as it's breaking, so we'll probably have some follow-up stories. But, hopefully her lawyer gets his act together and takes what she says to heart and actually files an official petition. And then it will be interesting to see what happens there, if they can waive the doctor, evaluation that she wants, or where it goes from there. But this is just big news because this is the first time anybody's heard from her, and it's very clear she wants not just her dad out of this. She wants the entire thing totally done. And the other big takeaway is that she seems to be very angry with her family.
Well, we are going to stay on top of this story. Thank you
Yes.
for that update, Hollywood Hen.
Yep.
Late breaking news.
All right, so let's go down to the border because we finally have the Vice President of the United States, the Czar, as
czar.
appointed by President Joe Biden. Kamala Harris, she's decided to go to the border. But has she really?
And I wonder why. So it's like Trump announces he's going to go to the border. All of a sudden, after how many days since she's been announced as the border czar, all of a sudden, she's going to the border. But here's the kicker. Not only did Trump get her to go to the border, she's going to the wrong part.
Yeah, she's going to the wrong part.
She's going to El Paso, which is like 1,000 miles from the Rio Grande Valley where like the crisis is going down.
Right.
Because she can't let all the journalists take pictures of her while like bedlam and all hell is breaking loose. She's going to be like, hey, folks, I'm here in El Paso.
Everything looks good.
Yeah. It's great. Thumbs up, folks. And all the journalists will be like, yep, seems fine to me.
She's picking up the old El Paso Tex-Mex.
Yeah.
kit.
Yeah.
I love
Stop
that.
by, grab a meal.
I love that Donald Trump basically trolled her into doing her job.
It's something else.
It's truly incredible. I mean, I don't understand why they wouldn't have taken this as an opportunity right from the very beginning, because everybody knew that they were soft on the border. And if they just put a little effort into it and actually tried to figure out how to fix things, I guess they knew that their primary intent was to screw it up in the first place. So you had to kind of avoid
it was going to get worse.
Yeah, I guess they knew that, so that's probably why.
Well, and then the other thing, and we talked about this previously on the program, but I think there's a tension between, the Biden White House and Kamala Harris's, future political prospects.
Yeah,
And
she's like, when is this guy going to croak?
She wants her profile elevated to be the heir apparent.
Yeah, she wants to be a 2024 nominee.
But she doesn't want the pitfalls, the responsibility.
But Biden learned
that comes
all
with
of this from Obama.
Yeah.
Who, if you recall, when Obama passed this first stimulus, first of all, there's never, and proven to this day, there's no good way to spend $1 trillion. There's corruption, there's fraud, there's terrible stuff that goes. So anytime the government does that, the job you don't want is to be the guy who's in charge of the integrity of the money being spent, right? So Obama, first thing it is, put Joe Biden in charge of the stimulus back in 2009. And it was a disaster, right? They're building turtle tunnels and sex studies and everything else. And Biden's getting raked up one side and down the other. I guarantee you he learned all that. He looked at the border crisis and he's like,
nice, yeah.
Hey, you're in charge of this one.
Yeah.
What I love about it is it really is proof of what we've told you from the very beginning, that politics is not the West Wing, it is Veep.
It is.
If you've
Dude,
ever watched
so
Veep,
true.
you know that the vice president gets roped into being the face of everything terrible.
And the thing to always remember is they're responsible for the crisis. When they were running, on that debate stage, they asked, okay, Dems, if someone enters this country illegally, who's going to hand them, free health care and whatever else they need? And every hand goes up.
They want to decriminalize it. They said that all from the debate stage. Raise their hands.
And the thing is when you completely decriminalize people illegally entering our country, it's not just decriminalizing, it's incentivizing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they've just screwed this up. I kind of can't wait to see the theatrics around her visit.
Oh, yeah.
How do you even make her seem competent at this point? You can't. Speaking of incompetency, you guys saw the New York City mayoral election?
Yeah, and it's funny. It's like such an outsized amount of attention is given to this mayor's race. Like, currently in New York City, the unemployment is twice the national rate. You see what happens when you've got single party control of a town. New York is absolute wreck. It's heartbreaking how many small businesses, restaurants, all like a lot of the places I love, permanently closed. De Blasio, everyone knows, has been an absolute disaster. But, I guess it's fun because they're doing this like ranked voting.
I mean, it's just, yeah, so that's the best part is that Democrats conjure up this ranked voting issue. And so you can't actually tell who the winner is on election night.
Well, the thing I really love about the ranked choice voting is in the last few days of the campaign, there were accusations from various parties about, forming an alliance on the ranked choice ballot. My people vote for you second, that whole sort of thing. And the response was, wow, this is voter suppression. It's like, I just shocked that they found a way to claim voter suppression in their own election.
In all Democratic primary. Right? It's so good. But the thing that has come forward that I think is pretty clear, we've talked about with Governor Abbott, we talked about with a bunch of guests, and we've talked about the program basically since we started last October, is the issue of crime.
Yes.
Right? So all these progressives are trying to run these woke campaigns with the exception of one dude, this Eric Adams, who's a retired New York Police Department captain, 22-year law enforcement career. He's got the lead. The guy's up double digits. Look, he's not my cup of tea, but he's the only one in the race who was talking about law and order.
Yes.
And there were a lot of very interesting takes from him. It's looking like he's come out on top. He after some of the numbers started coming in, he gave this statement where he said, social media doesn't decide voters, Social Security recipients decide elections.
Right. It's just what we talked about, I think, on last episode about the Twitterification of public policy and politics. And because these journalists spend so much time on the platform, it informs the stories that they think are important,
right?
And it informs the policies that they think are prevalent among the electorate, and those things aren't real.
Yeah, journals are 4 standard deviations left of where the public is, and they've become such activists. They're like, oh yeah, in San Francisco, Chessa's basically made crime legal. They're like, oh, this is absolutely normal. This is what you're supposed to do. I mean, what's wrong with letting people just shoplift? The insurance will cover it. What's wrong with burning down a building? Their insurance will cover it. And that's not what actual people believe. That's journo dem operative think.
Oh, it's just it's a totally separate world.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, Biden's a perfect example too. Remember how many people were giving him campaign advice on Twitter, and he didn't take any of it.
Yeah.
Right? And then he walks into South Carolina, and suddenly the primary is over in 48 hours.
Totally.
And this is a guy who had lost multiple primaries. And then suddenly, with the off the internet, not the way to online, the normal everyday people that make up the Democratic electorate are like, actually, he's kind of our guy, right? And so everything flipped in the course of 48 hours, and this is just proof of that.
But the hilarious thing is, so he had a bunch of mayors come over to the White House to discuss crime, right? Which is so funny because for so long, Dems have basically said, you know what? Riots are the voice of the unheard. We should just let these people do whatever they want. You should, there's nothing bad about burning down businesses.
Yeah, property,
totally okay.
Yeah, property destruction isn't violence.
And now clearly they've seen the polling.
Yeah.
And they're like, we need to make crime a priority. And then the headlines that you're seeing from journals are hilarious, where they're like, Republicans pounce on rising crime. It's like, yep, there we go.
Yeah, it's probably not that tough to pounce when New York City has had 462 homicides.
Jesus.
That's not pouncing. That's just kind of looking around and being like, guys, we got a problem here.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these places, all of these cities, it sucks because they're great spots. And in recent years, before the pandemic, they were great. All of these cities were awesome to hang out. Good food, good people, safety, everything else.
Dude, there's 2 empty storefronts in our building right now as we speak.
Yeah.
On the street level.
I mean, DC's a mess. It's a mess. But it's all, only part of that is because of COVID, to be honest with you.
Right.
The other part of it is that there was protests for 6 months downtown where they were unabated and encouraged. And so storefronts were absolutely crushed. Everybody decided to leave the city. And now you got just sort of an abandoned place. You can't even go get lunch. I don't know. There's 2-3 places where we are in Washington, D.C. that you can walk to and go get lunch. The rest are closed.
Right. It's like Subway or build your own salad.
Yeah.
So this is the statistics. It says New York has seen a 73% rise in gun violence from June last year.
And that's the thing that they'll say, oh, so it's guns.
Yep.
Oh, so it's guns. No. It's the effing criminal, you idiot.
That's the thing. And these are cities with the toughest, gun laws on the books. And then front page of the Washington Post, as homicides soar nationwide, mayors see few options for regaining control. It's the party of zero ideas. Dems almost universally say tighter gun laws are needed to curb violent crime, and then invest in I don't know, what do they call them, like community outreach, whatever, like social workers. That doesn't get the job done. What you need is they've been telling us we need to defund the police. You need police. You need police in these neighborhoods that are suffering from the worst gun crime. And the best solution that the Dems are offering is, you know what? Get the cops out of there.
Dude, they dismissed charges. I saw this recently in New York. They dismissed charges on, for all those people who were looting.
Yeah.
In New York.
Yeah.
And then you're shocked to see crime goes up when you don't punish crime?
Yeah. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. Anyway, I think all that's good for the Republican Party because there's only one party that's actually talking about this stuff and actually trying to do something about it. So, add that to the long list of reasons why we're looking at a red wave.
Speaking of red wave, honestly, we got an interesting interview today, don't we?
We got a great interview. And this guy could very well be part of a red wave. Sean Parnell from Pennsylvania, running for Senate. You may have heard the name last year. He was running for the House against Connor Lamb in a very, very difficult Democratic district in Allegheny County, sort of the Pittsburgh area. He came up just absolutely a hair short, but he's decided to give it another run. I was really intrigued. I didn't know much about this guy, but I think you'll really enjoy the interview. I want to welcome to the program a best-selling author and a candidate for Senate in the great state of Pennsylvania, Sean Parnell. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me back to the program. Is that that's what you do, right? The program.
That's exactly right. You're a very quick study, Sean. Very quick study.
I try. I'm not, but I try.
Well, listen, it's great to talk to you because I've heard incredible things about you and folks who were able to work with you last cycle, but we haven't had a chance to meet. So, look, first thing I want to know is you're a pretty interesting guy. Before we get into the politics, you wrote a book called Outlaw Platoon, and it was about your experience in the Army in Afghanistan. Can you just kind of give us a little overview of what all that was about?
Yeah. So I was an elementary education major in Clarion University. And one day I woke up on my couch, surrounded by beer cans, had the hangover of a lifetime. My primary concern back then, by the way, was trying to figure out how I was going to manage student teaching second grade.
Right.
But I wasn't sure that that's what I wanted to do. Like most sophomores in college, I was just felt like, hey, my parents said I should go to college, so here I am, and I just picked a random major that I thought would be a good fit. And so I stagger over to the TV set with a hangover and turn it on and watch it flicker to life just in time to see an airplane crash into the World Trade Center. And, like every American that lived through that moment, I was angry. I was a little bit scared. I was shaken to my core. But, in the wake of the most horrific terrorist attack in our nation's history, I just felt like I knew exactly why God had put me on this earth, and that was to get in the fight. And so went to Afghanistan, right on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan in 2006 as a young infantry lieutenant. Our mission back then was find Osama bin Laden. Unfortunately, in over 485 days of combat, we didn't find him, but we found thousands of enemy troops. And my platoon took an 85% casualty rate. Some of my men were wounded twice, some 3 times. I was wounded myself. And then shortly after we came back from Afghanistan, I was medically retired as a captain, came back here to Western Pennsylvania, where I was born and raised. And I just felt the need, like my next mission was telling the story of my troops who, by and large, felt forgotten by Americans, right? Not in a negative way. Like Americans would thank them for their service and then promptly ask, hey, where were you deployed? And they'd say Afghanistan. And then Americans would say, oh, Afghanistan, thank God you were there and not Iraq, because Iraq is just so dangerous. And my men would be like, what? I just got shot in the head last week. What are you talking about? So I wrote this book. I started writing this book. I'm not like the best writer in the world. Writing a book had never been part of my life's plan, but I wrote the book, and in its first week, it took off and became a New York Times bestseller, and was a New York Times bestseller for several weeks. And so, and that book is just, it's not political. It's just about my time in Afghanistan as a young leader, and really it's a testament to my troops. And the reason I wrote it was to capture their legacy, make sure that Americans understood what they went through so that that legacy could be passed down from one generation to the next.
Yeah, I imagine you keep in pretty close contact with all your guys. How's everybody doing?
Yeah, I think people, it's hard to say. It varies. I mean, my platoon has done 2 or maybe even 3 combat deployments since I've been back from the first one. And tragically, we've lost more soldiers, I think, to suicide than we lost in 2 or 3 combat deployments, which is that's part of my mission when I came back, right? Like, is seeing the struggles of our men and women in uniform when they come back from war. And ironically, when men and women come back from war, the real war begins. And so, watched my men really, some did great, some not so much, but that's why I sort of threw myself into, a charity organization that I co-founded called the American Warrior Initiative, which I've been working with for a decade, that gives service dogs to vets, first responders, and their families. And so
it's great.
That's what I was doing, before I got involved in this crazy world of politics. And I blame President Trump for that.
Well, as if you had, you were dealing with an amazing life to begin with, and now all of a sudden you want to serve in a different way. You get into politics. I mean, have you lost your mind?
A little bit. Yeah. It's like, so that this too, along with writing books, similar as writing books, like this was never part of my life's track either. And I've always been involved in the fight. Like, I've volunteered on local, state, and federal campaigns. I've been involved on the donor side of things, like once or twice.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Did you grow up politically motivated? I mean, were you consuming the news and were you political at all growing up?
I mean, I come from a family of, half family of Allegheny County, Western Pennsylvania Democrats, and half Republicans. So I've had we've always been political. Thanksgivings have always been very, very interesting. But for me, one of the things that I learned in Afghanistan is the whole idea of servant leadership and the idea that leaders work for the people, not the other way around, right? And so I've always been interested in the concept of leadership and the philosophy of servant leadership and giving back to my community. And so I just see politics as a natural extension to that. But again, like this was never part of my, President Trump called me out to do this randomly. Like, he came to Western Pennsylvania, gave a speech at the Marcellus Shale Coalition here in Western PA. At that time, I'd never met him, never talked to him. I wasn't even at the event. I was in South Carolina giving a service dog to a veteran. And I'm up on stage, like, giving a speech, and you've had those moments where your phone is just ringing and it's vibrating,
right,
in your pocket over and over. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, did I say something offensive on social media?
Yeah, what did I do?
And I get off stage and I see 56 missed calls. I'm like, and text messages. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And my mom is just ringing my phone off the hook. And now I'm really worried.
Now you're worried, yeah.
Like there's a death in the family or something. And my mom is I come from a big Italian family in Western Pennsylvania. She's this fiery Italian woman. And she's not doing that unless there's something ground shaking that's happening. And I pick up the phone, I sneak off stage. I'm like, hey, Ma, what's going on? What's wrong? And she just starts yelling at me. She's like, Sean, are you running for Congress? I'm like,
not that I know of.
I'm like, Mom, no, I'm not running for Congress. What are you talking about? And she just paused and she just goes, well, President Trump says you're running for Congress. I'm like, what? So she sends me this video, and sure enough, it's President Trump doing the whole Sean, brilliant military man, he's got everything going. And I'm like, how is this my life? And so with no political experience in October of 2019, I was turned my life upside down. I got in the race against Connor Lamb here in Western Pennsylvania, who many people believe, because his district here in Western Pennsylvania, PA 17, everyone acknowledges here in Pennsylvania that it was gerrymandered by the PA Supreme Court to protect him. They drew his hometown in that district. His family name, the Lamb name, has been entrenched in Western Pennsylvania politics in the middle of the 20th century. Everyone said he was unbeatable. And so we raised record-breaking sums of money in almost a year with 45,000 individual donors. And even with all of the big tech censorship that happened in 2020, and the media almost universally stacked against me, and Pelosi spending millions of dollars attacking me in PA 17. I didn't have any like outside help, right? I raised all the money on my own. And again, and running against Connor Lamb, who at that time was the Democrat golden boy.
Totally.
We only lost by a few thousand votes. And
it was close.
I take a little pride that it took them almost a week to beat me. So, you know, and if you look at the turnout metrics on paper, like people say that PA 17 or leading into 2020 was like an R+2. It's not. It was a D+ district in 2020. If you look at the turnout metrics, well, Pennsylvania is not a D+ state, and if you can keep it close in areas like Allegheny County, in and around the city of Pittsburgh, you can win Pennsylvania, man. It is far more winnable than people inside the Beltway think or understand.
I mean, you've done your homework, Sean. You've gone from a soldier and a book writer to all of a sudden, I could put you out with Charlie Cook. This is pretty good.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, so I learned a lot, right, in 2020. I'd never run a campaign before. It was like drinking from a fire hose every day. And like, you know, we've got a rule, like I've got a rule in my campaign. Like, you don't get a job in my campaign unless you're humble, hungry, smart, right?
There you
Because
go.
I want the right attitude. Like
culture.
Culture. There's far too much ego in politics. I can't stand it. I loathe it. So I want people that have good attitudes, that believe in something greater than themselves, and that's, you know, protecting and preserving the American way of life and the American dream. And we've got a great staff, and we learned a lot through 2020. But one of the things that was like my number one lesson was that Republicans focus on campaigns. Sometimes they run good campaigns, sometimes not so much. But Democrats focus almost exclusively on elections, whether it's at the local, state, and federal level. Every election is just a little bit different. But 2020, they clearly had a plan, right, to weave chaos into the system. And I'm not talking about like voter fraud or anything like that. I'm talking about unilateral changes to election law in the middle of the game that exclusively benefited them. And now you're seeing Democrats focus on elections today in the form of HR 1 and S1, right?
Yeah, right.
That's what they do. And so moving forward, Republicans have to have a foot in both worlds, right? You got to run a great campaign, and you have to focus on what's going on with the elections and be involved on the front end, right? Knowing what they're doing. So much about being a leader on the battlefield, man, is like understanding what the opposition is doing. You know, not to the talking points level, but so politics is the same, just without bullets, you know? That's my job. Understand what the political battlefield looks like, I feel like. And I feel like we've got a great understanding of Pennsylvania. We know what we have to do to win, where to go to get the votes, and I feel really good about it.
It's so refreshing to hear that. I spent, 15 so odd years on Capitol Hill, and was totally motivated by this issue and the fact that Democrats were always focused on elections. Always. Right? Everything we're seeing now with a voter ID debate or like the full vote hauling, ballot harvesting.
Ridiculous.
I mean, they've been trying to do this forever, right? But it was very, very difficult to try to get Republicans engaged in this debate because it's esoteric kind of policy-based stuff. But man, is it important. I'm really glad to hear you're focused on that.
You have to be. And I think for me, it's like a couple things about being a conservative Republican, right? Is that you judge your success or you judge whether or not you're over the target on an issue by if the Democrats are attacking you at the same time the media is.
Yeah.
If that is happening, you are over the target. And for decades, right, the Republican Party and I think the establishment party has tried to sort of cozy up. Hey, if I'm nice enough to these people, they'll be fair to me. The reality is, in this day and age, is the recognition that they likely will never be fair to you, right? They've got skin in the game. What their end game is, I really don't know. I mean, do they want us to play second fiddle to China? I don't know.
Seems like it.
It certainly seems that way. But look, it's when the media and the Democrats are attacking you at the same time, you don't retreat. You've got to be default aggressive and lean into the issue even more. So the issue, and what I mean by a perfect example of this is voter ID. You talk about voter ID, it has broad bipartisan support nationwide, and indeed here in Pennsylvania as well. Like like some absurd number, like 90% of Republicans, 70+% or 80+% of independents, and like 60+% of Democrats, and 65+% of Black Americans support voter ID. Like, so the bottom line is, take the fight onto the political battlefield. Right. And sway public sentiment with sound arguments. I mean, of course, the Democrats are going to cry racist. That's what they do when they're out of arguments, right? So let them do that, because I think the American people, I believe on both sides of the aisle, are tired of, you're a racist. It's like, wait, no, actually, I just think voter ID would make our elections better. Yeah, and it's a common sense idea.
One of the things I was really impressed about with your opening video for your Senate campaign was the idea that within your platoon, you're working with people, you don't care if they're Black or white or whatever. I mean, these are your guys, right?
Correct.
And all of that is just so easily extrapolated out into this country in the way that people conduct their lives every day. But there is this professional class that is created entirely to try to rip us apart, right? And liberals think we're entirely identified by what we look like. And I thought that you hit it out of the park with your message on that.
Oh, thanks. And I appreciate that. And the reality is yeah, I did serve, Black next to white, Christians next to atheists, next to Muslims, rich next to poor, young next to old, Democrats next to Republicans. And somehow we figured out a way to make it work in one of the most hostile regions on the planet, acknowledging that there were no hyphenated Americans in our platoon, just Americans. And what we all learned out there was that, when we are united, under a common banner, fighting for a common mission, we can accomplish anything as Americans, right? And the same is true here at home. So if I can bring together a motley crew of diverse infantrymen on the border of Afghanistan, I sure as hell can do it here at home. And that's the mission, right? Bring people together. And the radicals, the radical left, they have to divide people into little groups, right? They have to play the identity politics game, because that is the only way that they hold on to any power. And that's right. Part of my mission is to be the opposite of that, is like acknowledging that, yes, of course, we're all different, but we're all Americans at heart, and a strong, prosperous nation lifts us all, right? And so, part of my job is as a campaign in 2022 is not just going to where people agree with me. Leadership is about going to places where people don't and making the case and swaying public opinion, and that's our pathway to success.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because Pennsylvania, obviously a tough state. We've had brief interludes of success over the years, but by and large, Democrats have had a lot of success here. But I think one of the things that has been true of Republican success over the years, and Pat Toomey had done this very well when he was elected twice, is to have the same kind of hold that you're talking about in the western part of the state, which I think you're uniquely qualified to do, Sean. But then also try to bring some of these Republicans back in the southeastern part of the state, the Bucks County, the Chester County, the Delaware counties that have been long-standing Republicans that over the last 4 to 6 years have just decided enough is enough, and they started to vote Democrat for the first time. What are we going to do to get those folks back?
So a couple things, couple stats about 2020. Yeah, Pennsylvania is always going to be tough. It's a swing state. But in 2020, we had 2 Republicans win statewide, even amidst all the chaos here, right? And congressional Republicans, I think another critical empirical stat is that congressional Republicans statewide in 2020 got over 85,000 more votes than congressional Democrats. That is statistically significant.
It is.
And then you add to that our judicial races. We elect our judges here in Pennsylvania. We had 2 ballot questions on the ballot here that were directly affiliated with whether or not Governor Wolf should be able to unilaterally extend emergency declarations here.
Yeah, I saw that. We covered that.
Yeah, we won those ballot initiatives by 139,000 votes. And so I think that, people in this state are waking up. They're very motivated. And I think, there are going to be hundreds. You asked the question, how do we get those people? Well, first we go there. We make the case that, more freedom, more economic prosperity in your life and the Constitution, the idea that our rights are protected and enshrined in the Constitution, they don't come from government. They come from our Creator. They come from God. And taking those arguments that like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness doesn't mean we all have to live the same life.
That's right.
As a leader, I will protect your ability to chart your own path, right? Taking that message to those people, but also Joe Biden's kind of a good salesman too.
Yes, he is.
Like a lot of these, there are hundreds of thousands of independents in Pennsylvania that like maybe thought Joe Biden would be a moderate unifier, that he was going to bring people together. But if you look at what he's done in the first 150 plus days, you go from, in less than 5 months, from border security to border chaos. You go from peace in the Middle East to rockets fired at Israel. You go from tax cuts to tax hikes. You go from price stability to the greatest inflation that we've seen since 2008. Energy independence to gas lines.
Totally.
People see this stuff, right? And so my campaign is like, is having a very ambitious agenda and a vision looking forward, not backwards, a vision looking forward to make this state the most prosperous state in the entire country. There's no reason why states like Texas and Florida should be beating the state of Pennsylvania. And if you bring economic prosperity and pro-growth policies back to Pennsylvania, we won't have people leaving like they're doing in droves now. And of course, you see that reflected in our census data here. People leaving in droves because Pennsylvania is not an easy place to start a family, and it's an onerous place from a regulatory standpoint to start a small business. We need to change that, keep people here, keep our talent here. And, pro-growth, pro-freedom policies, you look at states that do it well, like Florida with Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott and a Republican-controlled legislature, they are killing it. Well, we can do that. We can do that as well.
No, that's good. We have a saying on the program, don't take the bait. And what that means is you got to look forward. And that is exactly what you just articulated. I absolutely love it. I got 3 big questions before I get you out of here. And these are the ones that the minions really pay attention to.
Okay.
They may have been charmed so far, but they're really interested in this stuff. So your last meal on earth, what would it be?
Oh, well, that's very clear. It's mac and cheese. I look at everything that I do, every restaurant that I go to is looked at through the prism of mac and cheese, right? The first question is like, do they have it, right? If they don't have it, I don't go to that restaurant.
Bad restaurant.
2, it's judged on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst mac and cheese in the world, but 10 being the best. And so that's the first thing so it's obviously mac and cheese.
So wait, let's break this down. So, some people will say like a Kraft macaroni and cheese is a 10. What constitutes a 10 for you?
I think every restaurant is different, but I like when people get a little creative with the mac and cheese, right? Like, and by the way, Kraft mac and cheese is awesome. Like,
it is awesome.
I don't have it. I mean, it's a timeless classic. I'm not, it's really great. And my daughter, my kids, they love Kraft mac and cheese. But like I like it when they put like a little breadcrumbs on there. Hey, if you want to throw a little bacon on there, I'm not going to complain. So just get creative with it. But one thing I can't do, and I learned this the hard way before a speaking engagement in Arizona, is lobster mac and cheese. I'm like, I'm like, this is delightful. 6 hours later, I found out I was allergic to lobster and shellfish.
Oh no.
And it was not so delightful. So.
Oh yeah, that's a tough, and especially on the road, that's a real tough way to find out you're allergic to shellfish.
Yeah, it's a tough lesson to learn, but the taste in the moment of that delicious mac and cheese was, I think, worth it.
I love it. Okay. All right. So you previewed some of this, and the question usually is, if you weren't involved in politics, what would you be up to? I think we kind of know, but if you were never involved in public service, let's put your military career aside. You're not involved in politics. What would you want to do with your life?
Oh my God. This is a really, it's kind of a deep and profound question for me because, I am who I am because 9/11 was a horrific day in our country's history.
Yeah.
So many, it really just changed the trajectory of our entire country, just through the way in which we look at and view the world. Right. But I also I ended up, being up at Fort Drum, meeting the best soldiers that I ever served with, and it totally altered my life. And, while it was of course negative, I had some positive experiences grow out of it as well. The reality, I don't know what I would be doing. I sure as hell wouldn't be writing books for a living. I wouldn't be going on TV and talking about counterinsurgency and foreign policy and national security. I think one thing that I think I would be wholly focused on is really raising great kids, and pouring myself in to be the best family man that I can.
Yeah. Well, that's a good answer. All right. Final question. What motivates Sean Parnell more, the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat?
You know what? Not raising liberal children.
That's an agony of defeat. That's an agony of defeat.
That would be. But for me, it's like I really think it's important to teach our kids that freedom has to be fought for, and even taking them on the campaign trail and showing them that you have to fight for it. You can't fight for it inside your house. You go out there and constantly make the case to the American people why having more freedom in their life is a good thing. But raising kids that appreciate this country, that understand that service to others is the highest honor, and giving without any expectation of receipt is really the pathway to a meaningful life. And so, I said, I'll try not to raise liberals, but the reality is that if one of my kids grows up and is a liberal Democrat, like for me, it's like, as long as they understand their views and are passionate about them and can defend them in the public square without saying like racist, like that's ridiculous. But I'd be proud of them either way if they were passionate about serving their country, serving others, and defending freedom.
Well, it's the right focus. Listen, Sean Parnell, I can't thank you enough. We got to do this again. There's a long campaign, and we're going to keep track of this. There's nothing more important for the listeners out there. We got to have Pennsylvania. Extremely important. We got both the primary and a general, and we're going to be keeping track the whole way. Thank you, Sean, for joining us.
Win Pennsylvania, save America. That's the motto. Get it in your head. Win Pennsylvania, save America. That's the mission.
Crystal clear. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome. That's a good interview. And that was heavily requested by the Minions.
Yeah. Minions love this guy. I mean, it's hard not to love this guy.
Yeah.
He's got 2 bronze stars and a Purple Heart, and his public service continues. The guy he's smart. I liked him. There's going to be a tough primary there. I know we've got other candidates. We may even have him on the program, but we could do a lot worse than that guy. I know that.
And you know what? That brings us to the end of another banger of a show. So thanks again to all our listeners. We love our numbers. Tell your friends to subscribe. Leave those 5-star reviews. Ask the question. And I think, you know what? I think we should just have a bonus episode tomorrow. This is feeling good. We should drop a 3rd episode this week. Who's on board? We good for that?
I'm good. I'll do it.
Yeah. You good? All right. So there you go. Bonus episode. So
let's go.
Until next time, Minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Friday. Stay ruthless.